Thanks for staying with us on the program. Now, Liberians voted in the country's fourth consecutive election since the end of a civil war 20 years ago. The October 10 elections availed the voters the opportunity to elect a president, 15 senators, and 73 members of the House of Representatives. Now, of the country's 5.4 million population, 2.4 voters were certified by the National Elections Commission, the NEC, in the final registration roll, FRR, to vote in 5,890 polling places. 31 political parties nominated 1,128 candidates for different offices, while 195 independent candidates contested in the several polls. The election is now headed for a runoff, as both strong contenders have failed to get the 50% votes required to avoid the runoff. So here we are having the conversation. Let's get joined now by our guest who will help us understand the situation in Liberia better. Joining us now to discuss this, we have Ibrahim Al-Barkri Nyei, a Liberian researcher and policy analyst in Monrovia. Thank you so much, Ibrahim, for joining us.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure. We also have Professor Adam Kyne, international human rights advocate in Monrovia as well. Professor Kyne, thank you for joining us. Now, I'm going to start with Ibrahim. We know the updates already. We know what's happening in Liberia regarding the elections already. Ibrahim, what exactly are your concerns about the elections, if I may ask?
Well, there aren't major concerns at this stage. The concerns of security or insecurity has been largely resolved and addressed. There's no anxiety around security, given the massive and peaceful turnout of the population on the day of the election. And at this stage, what we expect is for the National Elections Commission to read out the final results of the election and give the public a clue onto the direction of travel at this stage, whether it's almost clear that we'll be having a runoff election, but this needs to come, it needs to come from the National Election Commission, and when this round of election will be held.
All right. Okay. Thank you for that, Ibrahim. Now, Professor Kyne, what can we say is the state and fate of the country with the present administration? Because we've heard a lot of complaints about the administration.
The country, I think the country has spoken loudly. People have spoken relative to changing the construct of what has transpired over the years. As we speak at the moment, the election result shows that the ruling party has 43.7% and the opposition have 43.4%. Looking at that number, it sagaciously suggests that there will definitely be a second round. There is an infinitesimal margin. So I think the Liberian people that are speaking told their president that if you have done well, we would have given you this just on a bed of ease. But as a result of, I think, what transpired the past 6 years, so they are reconsidering their votes. So that's why we have this infinitesimal margin between the opposition and the ruling party. So I think that speaks volume to what have transpired in the past 6 years. So I think there is a need, if he or the president has to win, or if he wins, then there must be, I think, stepping up his game. If the opposition wins, of course, then the country has decided to make a substantial change in the political construct of the nation.
Okay. Now, Ibrahim, we hear that international bodies are warning parties and citizens against false celebrations that, of course, can incite violence. Can you tell us more about that? Is it that people go about saying that one political party has won, or what is the situation in Liberia?
Well, that message and warning is very important because just a day after the election, political parties were posting information on their social media pages, including influential members of parties, were already posting information that their party has won the election. And so that created a climate of anxiety and confusion among the population. If each political party is claiming victory and the National Election Commission wasn't forthcoming with the full result, and then it was important. I mean, it was a situation that could create concern among the population and even fear given that both parties could come to the street to celebrate, and that could risk a clash among the between the political parties, particularly the main and timely that the international community or the various Liberian civil society organizations that have been very active to issue a warning or a message against early claims of victory by the political parties. And it was also, that warning was also very timely because there were individuals taking advantage of the vacuum in information to post fake results on the various social media pages, including results that were purportedly coming from the National Election Commission, because it is quite easy to just take the logo of the National Election Commission from the internet and paste it to any result that appear valid and credible, even though they were not released by the National Election Commission.
Okay. Now, Professor Kyne, beyond all the drama that is currently going on, between the political parties and all that, how can we say that the elections in Liberia has been so far? Now, we've heard about different African countries, where elections are marred by violence, by irregularities, disenfranchisement, and things like that. Do we have the same situation in Liberia, or has the elections generally been free and fair, in your own opinion?
I am quite sure by this time we can express that the election so far has been free and fair, even though there are some glitches along the way. And some of those would be the Election Commission not having the courage or the mechanism to pronounce the election result on time. And I think that has created an election anxiety disorder within the country, and we're hoping that when they go second, we have to go to the roundup, which of course, like I said, I've done all the math. There's no possibility of anyone winning if they pronounce the result today. I think the problem is having to pronounce the result timely so that the Liberian people cannot be on the edge always. Liberia is a very small country with 2 million votes. I think that we shouldn't take up to 10 days to pronounce or announce those results. And I think that creates a lot of suspicion in the mind of voters, because if you're taking 10 days to pronounce, they think there's either something going on or why is this going on? So there's a lot of suspicion, and I hope that the Election Commission will be able to correct that if we have to go to the second round, so we don't create a national election anxiety disorder that will affect the people. I think people already want the result. I think it should be take about 2-3 days to get a result. It shouldn't take 10-15 days to get a result. Even though our Constitution suggests that it should take 15 days, but I don't think there is any logistical limitation that we should take 15 days in 2023 modernity to announce just 2 million results.
Now, talking about that, I'm going to come to you, Ibrahim. Now, looking at the length of time that they're expected to wait for the results to come out, some countries will start getting scared because there is a level of distrust for the electoral body. Would we say that same applies for Nigeria? How would we rate NEC and its credibility when it comes to electioneering processes and electoral management generally?
There have been several mistakes in the pronouncement of results. By that I mean, there was some time the Election Commission announced a result that was not accurate, and they have to work on that right after the election or made that correction. And there are polling stations that brought in ballots that were marked, where the carbon sheet took the one and took it to the second place. And so 0 went to the first person, or 0 went to the person took the other number of the other person because the carbon sheet slightly shifted. And those are some of the complaints. And then, of course, District 8, where I am currently residing, they had to recount the vote because according to the opposition candidate, he said that one of the polling stations has 70 votes, but somebody manipulated the system by adding 1 to the 70, making it 170. So that currently they're going to a recount for District, I think 8 and 7. There's a recount going on. So I will not illegitimize election commissioner.
Commission.
But I think there has been errors that can be fixed, and there are mistakes that can be corrected. And I hope they will correct it as we go to the second round, because now it's going to be real tension, a real battle between the two political parties. There will be no other candidates, just these two. So I think they have to be meticulous. They have to be very vicious and vigilant, and everything they got to put in order so that we make sure that we have the election result without errors and a lot of mistakes.
All right, Professor Kyne, thank you for that. Now to you, Ibrahim. Well, one couldn't have easily predicted the outcomes of the elections, but now seeing that both parties, the strongest forces in the election, have failed to secure 50% of the vote. A lot of people were not expecting that, because some days ago, people were expressing their displeasure at the incumbent administration, talking about Judge Weah's administration. So what has changed then?
Well, President Weah entered the election with a high degree of confidence. He was told by his handlers that he's going to win the election on the first ballot, and that will be on the back of his record in government. But this has backfired significantly. I believe he's asking some important questions now in his inner cycle, asking them what went wrong, why this mass rejection, because when President Sirleaf sought re-election in 2011, she faced 15 other candidates, 2 of whom were very strong candidates. Prince Johnson contested that election, Charles Bromsky contested that election, and they won different counties and took good shares of the vote. But President Sirleaf still won around 44% on the first ballot conveniently. This is not the case with President Weah. In this case, you don't have a significant third party challenging the incumbent in this election or the opposition in this election. The third party candidates that we thought would have posed significant challenges didn't perform to expectation. Notwithstanding, the president hasn't been able to win the 50% plus 1 on the first ballot, and not even conveniently leading the opposition. He's still struggling. And so I think there are several plausible explanations here. One could be that a good number of people supporting other opposition parties decided that they wanted to just support a single opposition who was already identified as the strongest among them to defeat the ruling party. But it also shows that the president still enjoys some support, but not as convenient as President Sirleaf was when she sought re-election, and not as convenient as the president himself would have thought, because he's been told over the years that he's performing very well by his supporters, his ministers, who have isolated him from the public and the reality. They've made him to believe that he was delivering on the mandate excellently, and they made him to believe that he was loved by the majority of the people. But he woke up in the last few days, he's waking up to different reality. Given the kind of explanations and information they gave him over time, this president would have expected to win a minimum of 60% of the vote, because this was what they told him. But he's waking up to a new reality, and a reality that is very disconcerting, and a reality that challenges the explanation he's been receiving. And so this calls for internal reflection in his inner cycle.
All right. Thank you so much, Ibrahim. Now, still on the topic of why exactly the race is so tight. Ibrahim, you did talk about the president now asking questions in his inner circle, but asking questions at this time won't exactly cut it. So I'm going to ask you as well, Professor Kyne, do you think that is there a possibility that people are acting basically on sentiments while voting for Judge Weah because of his background, or does it have anything to do with the power of incumbency? Because we've heard, especially in Africa or even around the world, once you get into power, to get you out of it will be very difficult. So do you think that these two factors have anything to play when it comes to people's support for Judge Weah? Because again, let's not forget that the same people were complaining about his administration just a few days ago.
But I was looking at the analysis of the pattern in which the Liberian people voted, And when you look at the pattern, it is proven that the president got most of his votes from the southeastern region, which of course he are part of, the southeastern region. I think most of the vote, I think he did exceptionally well in the southeastern region. I think that was the factor that played out in this election. But if you look at other counties like Lofa, like the bigger counties like Lofa, Nimba, where the opposition is from, but he did exceptionally well when it comes to little bit of development in Lofa and little bit of development in Nimba. So the expectation was that would have changed the mind of the people in Nimba and Lofa, but it's apparent that it didn't go that well. And there are other counties like Mosugu. Of course, Mosugu, we all know the capital is always for the opposition in most cases, but they went neck to neck. This place was Weah's base. Monrovia was Weah's base, but what we are seeing, it seems like it's not his base anymore. There is this fight between two political parties for Monrovia, and we have other spaces. So what I'm seeing so far is regional. I don't want to use the word tribal because that would sound too upward, but I think regional support for the president. The entire southeastern region voted for him, and then the entire some of the west and north supported the opposition party. And then there was a fight between the battleground area, Monrovia, Magebe, and other states. But I'm hoping that it will not turn up that way, where it would be regional vote during the second turn. I think there should be a need for balance. If not, then we'll create a regional perspective or regional leadership. That's how it will look like. But that's what I saw through my analysis.
All right, thank you so much for that and for your analysis on that. And I want to say a big thank you to you, gentlemen. Ibrahim Al-Barkri, Nyei, the Liberian researcher and policy analyst in Monrovia, and also Professor Adam Kyne, international human rights advocate in Monrovia as well. Thank you both for joining us on the program.
Thank you. Thank you too.
It's a pleasure. You're still watching Village Square Africa. When we come back, we'll take a look at the mass exodus of teachers in Zimbabwe, what could be causing it and what the government can do about it. Do stay with us.